Welcome to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. I'm your host, Brendyn Jones, joined as always with Nithin, Reddy. Nithin, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for some Bulls talk for once.
Yeah.
In a really long time.
I know. It's finally, they're in some sort of relevant position. It's been a tough day, though. Obviously, I'm not going to dwell on this because, we have some sports news to get on, but, obviously kind of disappointed in what's happening in Louisville right now. So prayers out for the people there, thoughts and prayers for them. If you're listening, just if you have anger or, sorrow or any other feelings, frustration, feeling lost, like all those feelings are valid. Use those to create positive change in whatever facet that may be. But yeah, other than that, it's been an okay day.
No, yeah, that's why we're here, for people to want to give the argument that sports is an escape. And while I do think that it has its place in that matter, there's a reason why we're seeing political issues come up in sports so often, because these athletes care so much, and with issues like these, it's just hard to have things happen over and over and over and expect, or at least hope for change. Yeah,
it's frustrating. Obviously, me and Nithin don't have the answers. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it's something LeBron James has been very dedicated to this whole summer. It'll be interesting to see if they do anything, but we obviously aren't going to sit here and speculate about what players are going to do, what's going to happen. Just would like to offer condolences for Breonna Taylor's family and the people of Louisville right now who are going through it. So, yeah, just that's how I wanted to start off the show. But in Illini news, so the NCAA Division I Board of Directors approved the recommendation to move all fall sport championships to the spring. This means that sports like volleyball, track and field, I'm missing sports, golf. Well, golf is playing right now, but they are moving to the spring. Soccer. That's the one I was thinking of. Soccer. So they'll be able to play in the spring, and it kind of clears up the confusion of, okay, now we have football. What about these other sports? Mm-hmm. Just seems like they're shifting that focus now to the spring. That means one of the most successful programs on campus, Illini Volleyball, can start competition as early as January 22nd. This is a good thing, obviously, because you want all these athletes to be able to play. If the football and basketball team are going to be playing, you want all the athletes to be in competition. But it does raise some questions for me in terms of scheduling, in terms of, home play. Because, if you look at it right now, right, so for instance, the volleyball team and the wrestling team who both use Huff Hall as their home stadium during their seasons are now having overlapping seasons. What does that mean for them?
There's also gymnastics,
track and field, stuff like that it'll be very interesting to see how that turns out. But the thing that I think is going to be the biggest question is, now that all these sports are headed into the spring, what's going to happen in the fall of 2021? Mm-hmm. So, for instance, say all sports are going to be able to continue at some form of normality come fall 2021. If volleyball is starting in January and they finish their season, say in May or March or May, are they going to be expected to, have that quick summer and turn around and start games in August again?
Yeah.
That's the most interesting thing about this whole thing for me. It raises the same question with soccer. It raises the same questions with now track and field and cross country are going to overlap. Which I said track and field earlier. I meant cross country. Now those seasons are going to somewhat overlap. There's athletes that do both. So it'll be interesting. What do you think about this?
Well, there's a bunch of dynamics that are coming into place. There's the scheduling, as you said. There's similar to what the NBA is going to have to go through with how they're going to figure out the upcoming season after that. And there's also recruiting to consider, because not all states are doing their fall sports currently. I know Illinois has pushed back all their sports for now, but it's going to be really interesting how recruiting goes especially with with some of these smaller sports, like I don't even want to consider volleyball a smaller sport, but these non-revenue sports, they don't get national coverage in the same way. So the high school athletes don't get the same coverage, and that's why assistant coaches going out and looking for recruits matters a lot more than in basketball and football, where you have a bunch of tape on these guys.
Right.
It's going to be interesting how that dynamic comes into play. It's also going to be interesting how each conference kind of navigates their championships, because it seems like they're all going to be overlapping. And does that mean there's going to be like 3 or 4 sports playing some sort of championship weekend, some sort of Big Ten tournament at the same time? And I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Yeah, it's wild that I don't know how many Division I sports are here at Illinois. 14 maybe?
I want to say 13, but I'm not positive. I'll look it up.
So now, like, when they're usually spread out against, like, across the whole year, now only one is playing in the fall. And then depending on what the basketball schedule looks like, they'll start at the end of the fall. But now you're looking at 10 to 12 sports playing in the spring, overlapping with each other. There's going to be a lot of competition. It's going to be hard for our DI sports section to figure that one out. But it'll be good. I mean, like, it's obviously a good thing these sports are coming back. Like you said, though, like, this is going to change a little bit of recruiting. It seems like Governor J.B. Pritzker is pretty rigid in how he's looking at this. He's been criticized as being the only governor to not let high school sports play. He doesn't seem like he cares enough or cares a lot about the criticism. He seems like he's ready to ride it out because he, in his own turn, he said a pretty powerful quote that said, if the other governors like want to risk the lives of children, then they can do that, but I'm not going to do that in my state.
Yeah, it's very fair.
Yeah, I think so. Very fair. So it seems like it'll stick to a similar schedule that they had when it first came out, I think in August, where like a lot of the sports are just moved to the spring, including football. What that means for recruiting, we won't know until then. But yeah, I think it begs the question of if they can do this, if they can have that, what the turnover is going to be for the fall of the next year. It's the same kind of questions we're asking about the NBA right now, like when the season will start, if that'll have any effect on the next year. They'll have to take into account, I guess, injuries and stuff. They're going to be playing a lot more. So hopefully they take all of this into account.
It's going to affect a lot of sports in that just moving to a different month changes the sport completely. I mean, we were looking into how football would be if we started in January, where there'd be snow games to start off the season. And I guess it's still going to happen with maybe not initially, but in the October start, we're going to have some very cold weather very quickly. And the same thing's going to happen for a sport like cross country or a sport like soccer, where you're doing this outdoors. And it's very, very cold in Illinois in January. I think the both of us know that very well.
Very cold. I hate walking I guess I'm not really walking to class in January, but hate being outside in January.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is all new territory. We don't know what this is going to bring. Obviously, it will have implications for if you talk about recruiting for a few years. If you're talking about scheduling, at the very least, it'll have an impact until next year. So it'll be, something that we should look on. But it is pretty good that Illinois and the Big Ten in general will be getting one of their more successful sports back in terms of volleyball. Obviously, we know that the Big Ten is a powerhouse when it comes to NCAA volleyball. They're always in the top or in the Final Four. Illinois got their chance to be there a couple of years ago, where they lost to Nebraska in the Final Four, another Big Ten team. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. I think one thing that I do want to talk about as a volleyball point of view is that this volleyball team isn't a new team in terms of there's going to be people with experience. You look at Diana Brown, you look at Kennedy Collins, people who played a lot last year. But I think if I'm not wrong, they're only having one starter returner from the 2018 season where they went to the Final Four. They have a lot of young talent that's going to have to step up and play big minutes and stuff like that. So I think this is, while it sucks that they can't play in the fall where they're normally playing, I think it'll be interesting to see how that extra few months of preparation before game time comes in with these new players for volleyball.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting how winter break is approached with a lot of these sports, because that might be their preseason. And we're going to see if they kind of ramp it up and sort of give access starting in December, or if it's just a you go straight into the sport sort of scenario, which would be very rough, but honestly seems like a very likely possibility at this point.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll, I mean, with January 22nd being the earliest that these now fall sports can play, I wonder how much they're going to try to do over the winter break. I mean, we've talked about basketball, like maybe trying to fit an entire schedule into those couple months of now this extended winter break that the students aren't going to be on campus for. So it'll be really interesting. It'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, there is, hopefully there's more coming out about what these schedules will look like. Obviously, I mean, we've been in this situation since March. You'd have to assume that in January we'll be in a similar situation. So that means maybe a similar thing.
I think we have to expect non-universal schedules coming up because I think the WCC announced that they're going with a 16-game regular league schedule, and with non-conference games being up in the air at the moment, a team like Gonzaga might only play 16 games, which seems kind of crazy because they're usually looking at a number 1 or a number 2 seed in the tournament. And there are all these little things that go into this COVID season, I guess you'd call it, for every sport.
Yeah, and that'll be the thing is, especially in these non-revenue sports where maybe when you look at football and basketball, the end of the season tournaments matter a lot to the whole nation in terms of as the sports world. When you get to these non-revenue sports, unfortunately, it doesn't garner the same amount of national attention. So I don't know how much they will look for that uniformity in their schedules to try to match it so that there can be like a standard or a benchmark that they look at to grade teams amongst each other. You might have to look at an all Big Ten schedule for volleyball, or pretty much all these sports. I can really only see it staying in the conference, especially now that you look at football, and like Big Ten football is going to have different testing procedures than the SEC and the ACC and stuff like that. Speaking of testing, though, college football news. Did you hear about Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah, that's not a great look.
That isn't a great look in terms of, the fact that they're playing. Also, they have, I'm sure they're allowing fans in their stadium. I don't know how many, but I know they are. And the fact that this is coming after week 1 and stuff like that, where everybody was rushing back to get Big Ten football back. But hopefully those students that tested positive, or those student athletes that tested positive, are doing okay. But yeah, it's just a warning that, just because, you made it through a couple weeks, it's not over. Like, this is something that they have to be vigilant about. And I'm not sure about Notre Dame's testing policy because they are an independent school in terms of conference. So they're a real wild card. I hadn't.
Well, they are ACC this year.
Oh, they're playing in that?
Yeah, they're joining the league just for this season.
Right.
It's probably just a one-time thing, but moving the game back to December 12th now is just affects the entire ACC schedule because I don't think they announced the actual championship game, but my guess was that to follow all of the conference games. So now that you move it back another week, you're going to have to, now that you postpone a game, you're going to have to move it back a week. So December 19th looks like the earliest you can have championship weekend, which I'm pretty sure is fairly close to the college football playoff announcing.
Do you think that, okay, so like say another ACC team or even a Big Ten team has to postpone a game or something like that, how is this going to affect the college football playoff, right? Like, yeah, because I think at some point you just got to start losing games. You know what I mean? Because like, luckily for Notre Dame, they may have had that extra week at the end. But if you look at, Big Ten, you don't have any extra weeks. There's no bye weeks. It's 9 weeks, 9 games. And the championship games will last.
And to be clear, the college football playoffs announcing the 4 teams that make it on December 20th.
Right, exactly. So
they can't postpone anymore.
They can't postpone any games. And I mean, like, for instance, like, this is just an example, but like Ohio State, say they're playing for that in that first place in the Big Ten championship, and they have to postpone the Big Ten championship. Like, what does that mean?
Exactly. And what happens if, let's say, they beat Penn State, but Penn State finishes the season 8-1, Ohio State finishes the season 7-1 because they
lost
weren't
a game.
Yeah, they lost a game and they weren't able to play that last game to tie with Penn State.
Right.
So then they're not the Big Ten champs, or they're not competing
Right.
for that Big Ten title. And then you have a whole other thing, because the Big Ten is really, really pinched for time.
They are.
On what they're going to do with this season.
That is, I mean, and that's obviously something that they had to consider as, they're coming in, and when they made this decision, they obviously wanted to have enough time for, because, I mean, even their in-pad practice had been kind of suspended. I think they're getting in-pads. I saw at maybe Monday, I heard some rumors. But it'll be interesting to see, because you're right, they have no time. They have no time to make up any games. So if you lose a game, if you postpone a game, you're going to have to, bite that, unless they want to make these guys play twice in a week, which obviously I don't think they could do. Even if they did it on you couldn't even really postpone that, because I mean,
you'd have to play 3 games in a week then.
Yeah, it's going to take 21 days for any student that, tests positive to
and realistically,
come back to football. But
the schedule would look like Saturday, Thursday, Saturday. And
yeah, exactly. And that's impossible. I don't think that's pretty inhumane to make.
Yeah.
These dudes play football like that. They don't do that in the pros. They don't do that in Pee Wee. They don't do that anywhere. Mm-hmm. So, it'll just be really interesting. Obviously, hopefully this antigen test is good enough so that you won't have a team-wide outbreak. We'll see. We'll see as the research comes through. We'll start seeing that September 30th. They start to get tested. So I'm really looking towards the other Big Ten schools that maybe aren't testing as much as Illinois to really see what the standard is for these antigen tests. But yeah, that'll lead us to our first break. When we get back, we got some Bulls talk to get into, new head coach, kind of excited. But yeah, stick with us on 107.1 WPGU. So, the Bulls, finally some sort of relevance. It's always good when Adrian Wojnarowski or Shams Charania is tweeting about your team.
Is it always good? Because I'm pretty sure they tweeted about Bobby Portis and Nikola Mirotic.
I think it's good when you're a Bulls fan, at least recently, because for the last year, there's not been anything noteworthy happen with the Bulls. But there was yesterday. Yesterday, they announced that Billy Donovan, former coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, would be coming to Chicago to coach the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, Billy Donovan, I'm trying to figure out exactly how many I think it's 7 years with the Thunder.
Wait, that's the contract?
No. How long was he with the Thunder? I think 7 years.
Oh, no. I think 3.
Really? Oh, it was, who else was it before? I totally forgot. It was
Scott Brooks.
Scott Brooks, that's who it was before. Totally forgot about that.
I was going to say, a 7-year contract's not
No, definitely. I would never give any coach a 7-year contract, except maybe Pop. But obviously before that, coach notable players like Joakim Noah in Florida. Great culture guy, I think, to bring in.
5 years.
5 years?
Because he came 15-16. That was the Warriors 3-1 comeback.
Right. So, this undoubtedly is an upgrade. I mean,
no question. I think undoubtedly is underselling it somehow.
Billy Donovan hadn't missed the playoffs in his whole Thunder tenure, even though he had a lot of shakeups, a lot of stuff happened. Nobody expected the Thunder to make the playoffs this year. Yeah. They gave a Rockets a run for the money, almost beat them in 7 games.
We're one Steven Adams pass.
Yeah, for real.
Away from advancing.
I'm trying to gauge my excitement, right? Obviously, I'm excited there's a new coach, excited there's a new front office, excited they're actually making moves, aren't afraid to pull the trigger on stuff.
Brendyn, I'm going to stop you. Drink the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
I'm not drinking.
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
I'm glad you stopped me, okay? Because I do want to sit back and enjoy this. I do want to do this because, since I've been a real Bulls fan since maybe 2010, there just hasn't been a lot of new stuff that's happened, right? Mm-hmm. New good stuff. And the last 3 months of the Bulls organization has seemed like it's a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah.
So I'm sipping the Kool-Aid. I'm sipping. I'm not drinking. I'm sipping. And it tastes good, but I'm scared.
I'm not chugging, but I'm drinking. I'm sitting on a beach, just relaxing, looking at the sunset, and just drinking this Kool-Aid.
So here's why I'm sipping. Because it's nice. It's nice. It's a nice flavor. Yeah. But I wish it was Kenny Atkinson. And that was my number one pick.
That was my number one pick too, but I think Billy Donovan's kind of in that same ballpark.
Here's my thing with Billy Donovan is that when he goes to the Thunder, they're an established team. Mm-hmm. They have Kevin Durant. They have Russell Westbrook. They're obviously they made the Western Conference Finals that year. Next year, if he goes in 16, next year, Kevin Durant leaves. You still have MVP, you have Russ, who wins an MVP that year. Then the year after that, you get Carmelo and Paul George. And then that happens, and then Melo leaves, and you have Paul George, and then Paul George and Russell Westbrook get traded, and you bring in Chris Paul. They still make the playoffs. They don't miss the playoffs, but they never get it past the first round without Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And my thing is, I wonder what Billy Donovan, and we got to see this a lot this year, which was good, and it was a good thing, but I wonder how good he is without great talent. Okay. Because
that's fair.
I think you could make the argument. No, I don't think you can make. You can make the argument that this team. No, I don't want to make that argument. I was going to say that the Bulls maybe have better upside than the Thunder did last year. No. I can't make that argument. I won't be held to that.
There's no one even close to Chris Paul on this Bulls.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even SGA.
No, I agree. I think Zach LaVine is a little better than SGA.
Okay.
But also Zach LaVine's pretty close to his peak. SGA is not. Yeah. So it'll be interesting, right? I wish it was Kenny Atkinson, and this is the reason why. So
this is the young team argument, I feel like.
It is. Okay. When Brooklyn made that trade with the Celtics in 2011 or whenever that was, when they brought in when they brought in Paul Pierce and they brought in Kevin Garnett and they brought in Jason Terry, and they sent their whole future to the Celtics, and now you see what the Celtics are, right? Mm-hmm. The Nets were in despair after those three retired. They were in complete despair. They had no hope. Brook Lopez was out there giving them everything they had. That wasn't enough. And Kenny Atkinson was able to bring this team and create such a culture in that team. And you take a player like D'Angelo Russell, who had kind of been exiled from the Lakers and, socially thrown out. And Magic Johnson says, he just wasn't ready to lead a team. Mm-hmm. Leads them to the playoffs and then the year after they trade for him. That's why I was really excited about Kenny Atkinson, because I feel like he can take a culture that's kind of broken, which is what I think the Bulls are right now, and turn it into a playoff team. I don't know if I'm ready to say that about Billy Donovan.
Okay, so I completely understand the Kenny Atkinson argument. I think I thought Kenny Atkinson was the best available option, but part of it was because I didn't really think Billy Donovan was available.
I didn't either.
I figured he'd go to a team that is ready to win right now, or he'd go back to college, because he was a phenomenal college coach. He won back-to-back titles at Florida. He was arguably the best coach while he was there, next to Coach K, Roy Williams. But I really like this fit because Billy Donovan, as a college coach, seems like someone who could develop a young team. Mm-hmm. He's never had that opportunity yet. And his first season he comes in, it's with an established team. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. You got Serge Ibaka, Steven Adams. This is a team set to win right now. And it didn't really seem like coaching was the most important thing. It was managing talent. And I guess they did to an extent, but it really didn't work out. Maybe that's just not who Billy Donovan is. And we've seen over the years, it's not easy to coach Russell Westbrook because he kind of just does what he wants. And it's hard to bring down his level of competitiveness to a more smart approach to basketball. And we saw it a little bit with D'Antoni, but then we saw it fade again in the bubble. Mm-hmm. So I think he hasn't been in the ideal situation for him to coach. I mean, you could argue that this past season was, and they were a great team. You could argue.
I thought they were going to beat the Rockets.
Yeah, I thought they were too. I mean, they were the fourth best team in the West, fifth best team. They're in that range, which is very impressive. I think Billy Donovan can really develop the talent for the Bulls. I mean, it's part of it is because we're coming off of Jim Boylan, we're coming off of Fred Hoiberg, and it's like when you eat something really sour and then you have something sweet in your mouth, and it's a nice palate cleanser, and that's what we're getting with Billy Donovan. But also, I love what this this front office is doing. They waited a while because they didn't want to fire Boylan and have to hire someone right away. And I think they played it perfectly. I was questioning it right off the start because we all knew Jim Boylan wasn't the future Bulls coach, and we just kept him just because we could. But I like what Arturas is doing. I think Donovan's going to be a great coach because we've seen him be a great coach. The thing with Kenny Atkinson, I really wanted him because I thought he could develop young talent really well, like he did, but he only really developed for 1 year. Like the Nets really never did anything besides that 1 year, and even that 1 year, they lost in 5 games to the Sixers.
That is true, and as I said before, I am happy about this. It is just I hope that Billy Donovan develops the way that we think, develops the players the way that we think he can, because you look at Wendell Carter Jr., who obviously has been a little plagued with injury troubles, but I think could be one of the better defensive big men in the league if he's healthy, if he learns.
Versatile big.
Very versatile big. I don't know. I don't think he'll ever be good on the offensive end. That's just me.
Really? Okay.
Maybe if he can extend his jump shot just a little bit, but and maybe if he gets a little stronger.
He's never going to be a great post player.
And I'm fine with that because I think I've seen flashes of him where I think, honestly, if he gets consistent and he's in a good situation, he could be a contender for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, which is great.
So, I mean, if he's not good on the offensive end, I can live with that. And then you see Lauri Markkanen, who, after his first year in the league, it's kind of been plateau or maybe even a downward slope. I blame that mostly on coaching, but, I mean, this will be the year to see. I think Lauri Markkanen can be really good. I don't ever think he'll be a superstar, of course, but maybe a fringe all-star perennial type thing. And then Kobe White, who I think can be phenomenal. I've seen a lot of comparisons to Jamal
I'm a little
Murray.
confused on Kobe White because...
In what way?
I really loved him coming out of college because you watch him at North Carolina and he was attacking the rim every time he played, similar to how Colin Sexton played for Alabama, whereas these guys that gave energy and they were trying every single play, which I love those dudes. But there is some questionable shot selection, and that is a major concern. I think he's going to be a good player. I just don't know if he's ever going to be like an all-star caliber player.
I disagree with you in the terms of all-star. I think that if he learns to distribute the ball, which he was doing towards the end of the season, and he was scoring 20 points a game in the last 8 games or something before the season stopped, I think Kobe White can be phenomenal. I think that if this Bulls team stays together for a few years, I think he can be the second best player besides Zach LaVine. And it can kind of turn the ball handling away.
But I think that's the problem right there, that Zach LaVine is going to be your number one option. I love.
You think that's the problem?
I do. I don't think he's a number one option.
I don't think this core will ever win a championship, but I think they can be competitive in the East.
How competitive though? Because I don't really see
4th, 5th seed.
Okay, I don't ever see them really getting past the second round. Like, even getting out of the first round, I don't.
But that'd be nice to see, though.
It would be, but
because if
it's the Bulls. There's expectations of winning titles. There's expectations of.
You think so? I don't think there's an expectation. I think that there hasn't been an expectation to win a title since Derrick Rose, since early Derrick Rose, 2011, most notably, of course. In 2012.
What about like 2015 though? I think 2015 there was maybe not expectation, but there's a legitimate shot, and it felt like our goal is to win a title because they were what?
Well, yeah, that's their goal, but I mean, when you have to play LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love in the finals, and this was 2015 was one of their really good years. You know, you have to do that. And, I mean, obviously they got 2 games against them. You
got to remember, though, that year they were LeBron James 3 in the corner away from going up 3-1.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember that so much. Yeah. They called a timeout that wasn't theirs to call. Yeah. They didn't get technical. Look, that series haunts me right along with the Rondo injury against the Celtics the year after that.
That one haunts us.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you 100%. But I don't think that there's an expectation for this team right here to ever go win.
I'm not saying this team. I'm saying the Bulls as a franchise. You have. It's not like the Indiana Pacers. It's not like the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah,
where
that's fair.
You'll be satisfied with making winning 1 or 2 rounds. This is a perennial franchise that, because of Michael Jordan, because of Scottie Pippen, because of Derrick Rose, you consider them one of the best in the league, and we haven't seen that in a really long time. I think. I don't even know if we're going to get a good free agent for a while, seems like it's gonna have to be mostly through the draft.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
We finally have a good draft pick, and I don't think this draft class is that
Terrible,
good.
yeah.
I don't think it's that good at all.
Even the number one pick, I'd feel more confident with. If you told me Kobe White or the number one pick, I'd take Kobe White in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. It's frustrating, but I would like to see competitive basketball. Like, look, we're at the bottom of the Eastern Conference right now.
Yeah.
If this core in 2 or 4 years, or between 2 and 4 years, can take me to the second round, I'd be so happy.
We're an Anthony Davis away.
If only, but I don't know if we could ever do that. And I mean, it is what it is, but it's coming to the point where I'm happy that this team can be developed, but also what you say is true, that this team isn't going to win a championship. So you're going to have to deal these pieces at some point. And if they can be good enough to be a second round team, they're good enough to go get somebody that's good enough to take you over the hump. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I would like Kobe White and Wendell and Zach LaVine to stay for as long as possible, because I think those are players that if you add somebody really good to that, can take you over the hump. I don't know how sold I am on Laurie. I just think his game does.
I know he was really disappointing last year,
but I don't blame him on that. I do blame Jim Boylan on the fact that Laurie hasn't really developed and that he's being used the wrong way. But I also don't think I don't know how good Laurie can be.
I'm super high on Laurie.
What do you think is his ceiling?
I think his ceiling is like third team All NBA. Like, honestly, and I don't think it's likely he hits that, if I'm being perfectly honest. But he has exactly what you want in a modern big. He's athletic. He's got good handles. He's great at driving to the rim, and he's got a good jump shot. Granted, his defense is suspect. But I think just looking at his shooting numbers, they're not that great, but you know he's a good shooter. You see him, and
that's the thing, is like, you know he's a good shooter, but there's just times where, like, dude, you got to hit those.
But I think we say that about plenty of guys. We've said that about Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, it was a 33, I think, percent 3-point shooter this year, and he's the best shooter in the world right now. Like, sometimes it just clicks. Sometimes these guys, they're not in competitive games. They don't really need to hit shots, and sometimes you're just a young player who's trying to get your footing in the league. I mean, he's 22 years old?
Yeah, he's young. It'll be interesting. I think I know it's but it's a good thing that we're having this conversation. It's a good thing that we're worried about the future of the Bulls, because I mean, we're all, like, in a positive way, in terms of like how far can they go instead of how low does it go before we just blow the whole thing up. It's good. It's a good discussion to have. I'm very, very excited about. I think this season will answer a lot of questions, because it's not like you brought Billy Donovan in and you don't have any good players to put him with. I think you have a lot of good players. Players that you should be competing for eighths. I expect him to compete for the last spot of the playoffs this year. I expected him to do it last year, but then the coaching was just god awful, and you can't really. I mean, when you don't have a legitimate superstar, you win without good coaching. So the coaching will be an emphasis this year. Obviously, I hope they all develop really, really well. I think it'll be a big year for Kobe White. I think that he can make some noise. I'm fully bought in on Kobe White. I love him.
Okay.
So we'll see. But enough talking about the future.
Yeah.
We have a game in the present. Game 4, the Celtics, the Miami Heat, Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, Kemba Walker, Bam Adebayo.
Gordon Hayward,
the Milwaukee Kid, Tyler Hero. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this game.
Oh boy. Oh, I'm excited.
I'm excited for this game because this is going to show. I think this game is very important for the future of the Celtics.
Okay.
I think this game is going to show, are the Celtics for real or not? You saw 2 years ago when that young team made the playoffs without Kyrie Irving and without Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward from the beginning of the season, Kyrie Irving from the end of the season. How competitive that team is. How much of a dog Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart are. How much they can want to win and work together and win well together. Last year, you saw Kyrie get added back to the mix to kind of mess things up. They fluttered out early. This year, they're really, really good in the bubble. Yeah. Phenomenal in the bubble. They were for the first 2 rounds. They kind of hit a wall with the Miami Heat. Now, if they can win this game, even it up, then I think it's a series again, and I think the Celtics can win. But if they go down 3-1 against the throat-clenching Jimmy Butler Miami Heat, I think it's tough for them.
This doesn't seem like the Clippers. This doesn't seem like the Jazz. The Miami Heat seem like someone who would finish it off right away.
No, 100%. It's tough for them to look and say, okay, like now what is this situation going to look like in the next 3 years with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, who I think all are deserving of good money. Yeah. And yeah, it'll be very interesting. What do you think happens tonight?
I think the Celtics win because this is one of those must wins.
Of course.
You got to take this home. And I saw a stat the other day where it was the Celtics have led 75% of the time in this series, and they're down to 1.
Well, yeah, because you remember game 1, Miami was getting dogged in the first quarter, came back in the second quarter, dogged in the third quarter, came back in the fourth quarter, go to overtime, win.
Yeah, similar
right.
In game 2.
Right, exactly. And then they obviously win game 3. They were leading a lot of the game. But I'm not surprised by that stat at all. I think that's more of a stat of like, dang, look how clutch the Heat are and look how good they are at.
I'm glad you bring that up because they've been able to close out these games, Miami, really, really well. And it's because they've got a lot of experienced guys and they have those like 8 guys where you know they're going to be great.
Well, yeah, and they play with a really, really small, in terms of like they don't play a lot of people. Yeah, their lineup is really tightened up. You haven't seen Myers Leonard out there.
Yeah, Iguodala's even been playing.
Iguodala's been playing less minutes. Kendrick Nunn's not out there a lot. They really tightened up. They know who their go-to guys are. They're gonna get Dragic the ball. They're gonna get Hero. They're gonna get Kelly Olynyk the ball. They're gonna get Jimmy Butler the ball the most. And I think that's the thing is that.
But Brendyn, on the Celtics, it feels like they have their 6 guys at this point. They have their and specifically they have their 5-man lineup, which they really have been trying to identify. You know, Marcus Smart is going to be there. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker. That's 4 guys you really trust. The 5th guy has been tough. Daniel Tice has been solid in the series, but you don't really want him down the stretch. You don't want Robert Williams. You don't want Semi Ojeleye, Enes Kanter, Brad Wanamaker. You got Gordon Hayward now. Yeah. And we saw it at the end of the last game. The Celtics, they had a lead. He'd come back a little, but they closed out that game because they have that 5th guy. Gordon Hayward is someone who's not going to let Jason Tatum take those step back 28-footers to try to win the game because he's someone that's going to get motion going. He's going to want screens. He's going to want movement. He gets this offense going because he's kind of an extension of Brad Stevens on the court, which is exactly what the Celtics need.
And that's what's so impressive, I think, about Gordon Hayward is that, like, if he was there, you know, maybe during the 18 playoff run. Yeah. And if he hadn't been so injury plagued and like had to get back into rhythm, obviously we saw him struggle last year. Like I think they could have competed, you know, even further than they did these past 2 years. But I think that's just the type of player Gordon Hayward is. He's very unselfish. He knows his role. He knows how good he is. But he's also not willing to let Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker shine. Very unselfish player, definitely the player you want on your team. It'll be interesting. But what I was saying about the Heat is that they've built this culture just around Jimmy Butler's aura, and none of them like to lose. And
it kind of fits the whole Pat Riley aura.
No, exactly.
And I think that's why Jimmy Butler is the perfect superstar.
Well, yeah, Jimmy Butler said it himself. He's like, if you guys think I'm intense, like Pat Riley's like 100 times worse than me. And I mean, it is what it is. And I think that's why Jimmy Butler, I think that one season that in 2017 when Dwayne Wade was on the Bulls, I think that they probably talked about that a lot. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we knew that Jimmy Butler had his problems there, even at that point. And I'm sure they talked about it a lot. Him and Jimmy Butler became really good friends. Sure, Dwayne Wade has been recruiting him since he probably was even in Minnesota.
No, I'm pretty sure they've traveled to like Italy and
France before. So I'm sure, you know, Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley have had those conversations, and that's why Jimmy Butler felt so comfortable there, because he felt like he can be himself. He felt like he can be that guy, and he knows that Miami is a team that is willing to win. You know, they want to win. They're going all in. Nobody expected Miami to be this good. No. Nobody expected them to get out the second round. If you told me before the season when it was just Jimmy Butler, I believed in Jimmy Butler to make. I do have texts that said I thought they were going to beat the Bucks. I will say that. But I mean, I'm talking about like when I'm talking to other people, it's like I believe that they'd be good with Jimmy Butler. A lot of people didn't think Jimmy Butler could be. You think they're going to be a 6 or a 7 seed, but right? Exactly, and that's fair because like this is the first year. They have a lot of young talent. You don't know what's going to work out. They're right in the thick of things. I think that they've played better than a lot of teams that were supposed to be better than them. And
they look like the best team left. I think they look like the best team.
Yes.
Because the Lakers have the two best players.
Yes.
But they have so many issues outside of that.
They do have issues. I would agree with you that they look like the best team. And it's all because of just, that mentality that they're just not going to let up. They're not going to let you do what you want to do. They're not going to let up. They're great defensively. They can shoot.
Uh-huh.
And they have a guy that they go to finish out games, but he's not the only option.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Hero can finish out games. Goran Dragic can finish out games. This team is very versatile. They're very dangerous. They like to play the bad guys, and it's very exciting to see. As you said before, this is a must-win for the Celtics. There's no way they're coming back from down 3-0. They're not the Clippers, like you said. Yeah. So this is, who do you think is the guy has to be for the Celtics to win?
I think it's got to be Kemba, because we've seen Kemba struggle a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Kemba he can create offense in a way that allows guys to do whatever they want, but also gives him scoring opportunities. Because Jason Tatum's heavy ISO.
Mm-hmm.
Kemba Walker, it's a lot of dribble handoff, pick and roll, getting guys moving, and then scoring. And Kemba needs to be a threat scoring. Otherwise, defensively, it's an issue because he's smaller than everyone, and he's not able to guard in the same way that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward can. Marcus Smart also. So I really think Kemba needs to play well. It's one of those things where Jason Tatum, I feel fairly confident he's going to play well.
Mm-hmm.
Jaylen Brown, I kind of know exactly what he's going to give. He's going to give like 22 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. He's going to go like 9 for 18, 9 for 19 from the field. Hit 3 threes from the corner that I'm like, why are you taking these threes? Okay, you made these threes. And I feel like a lot of these guys, you know what you're going to get. The two players are Kemba Walker and then Marcus Smart a little with his offense, because he's either going to be just draining threes or he's going to be taking bad shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that's a good guy to have. I think.
So you had Celtics in 7. Are you still pretty confident about that?
It all depends on the night.
Okay.
If they win tonight, I'm still confident Celtics in 7.
Okay.
Obviously, Gordon Hayward coming back is a great addition. I think that even is going to help them after this series, whoever they play. But if I had to say right now, I'm not betting against Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
With the lead in the series, I'm not betting against Jimmy Butler. He's proven to me too many times.
We saw it in 2016, though.
Huh?
We saw it in 2016.
We did. Yes, we did see it in 2016. But that's a younger Jimmy Butler. That's a Jimmy Butler that I would like to say was hampered by the pressure of the Bulls organization. Now he's a free spirit. Okay. He's doing whatever he wants to in Miami. He's outworking everybody in the bubble. So if they go up 3-1 tonight, I think it's over in 6, maybe 7. But I think that if the Celtics win tonight, then they're going to regain confidence, and it's going to be kind of hard for the Heat to come back.
All right, I still think Celtics in 7, but I mean, when I'm saying Celtics in 7, it just means that I think they're slightly better than the Heat.
Well, yeah, 100%.
The Heat have impressed me throughout these playoffs, and they're still impressing me. You're exactly right. This game 4 is so crucial.
That's crazy. If you had to give like a bubble playoff MVP right now, who would finish higher in the rankings? Would it be Jamal Murray or Jimmy Butler?
I think it would be Jamal Murray.
You think
because
so?
The Nuggets need Jamal Murray to be good. We've seen Jimmy Butler have bad games.
Yeah.
And still win.
But I think that goes back to like the whole thing that Spoelstra said in the beginning of the year. It's like you guys look at max players as like players who like give you a lot of points. Like Jimmy Butler's a max player because he does the things that don't need scoring and stuff.
But the thing is,
I still would give it to Jamal Murray, though.
You could argue Bam Adebayo's better than, or has been a more important player to this Miami Heat team.
In the first 2 rounds, yes. Yeah. I think even I could definitely see that. But yeah, that will lead us to our second break. When we get back, football talk, baby. Stay tuned. This is the Line I Drive on 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. It is football season. Tomorrow is Thursday. That means the first game of the week. Jaguars versus Dolphins. Not too excited about it, except Nathan. Sorry.
All good, all
Nathan,
good.
sorry.
Everyone makes the mistake at some point.
I don't know. Yeah, that's my bad.
Flip
I'm
the
sorry.
tongue.
Nathan just reminded me about beard versus mustache, which I'm very, very, very excited about.
It's such a fun QB matchup. I mean, it's two very bad teams, but
Right.
it's such a fun QB
It's
matchup.
Gardner Minshew has surprisingly played pretty well.
He's played really well. I mean, he threw 2 picks, but like one was a deflection at the line.
Right. And you can't really
He's been phenomenal otherwise.
Well, like the first game, he 19 of 20. Like how often those are video game stats. That's crazy. I will probably be watching this game not that attentively. It is the Dolphins and Jaguars. Doesn't have a lot of implications for me.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm probably going to be watching Nuggets Lakers.
100%. 100%. I'll be following. I don't think I even have anybody on my fantasy team from the Dolphins or Jaguars.
Okay.
Maybe I should pick up Minshew.
I do have Minshew in another league, but he's my backup because I got Kyler.
Kyler's good.
Kyler's been phenomenal.
Yeah, he has been pretty good. I picked up Kyler because of D-Hop. But yeah, other notable games that start on Sunday, I'd look out for the 49ers. They're injury plagued like a lot of the league is after last week.
It really feels like they're going to go like 9-7 this year.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, unfortunately, their defense has been struggling with Garoppolo's.
Yeah.
So like
Nick Mullins looks like he's going to have to play.
That's what Shanahan said. Other games, obviously, the Raiders, who played really well.
Really well.
On Monday night, are playing the Patriots. Patriots obviously came off that stinging loss on the goal line against the Seahawks, but I think have played phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Cam had one of his best games in
I
years.
390 yards.
Yeah, he had like almost 400 yards. I think a rushing TD. He was playing phenomenal. And then you look at Bears Falcons, of course. That's going to be
every Bears game just doesn't seem fun right now.
Fun to watch. Julio did not practice today, is expected to be out. Obviously, get well soon to him. But Calvin Ridley is still dangerous. Matt Ryan is still dangerous. So we'll see. And then going forward, Texans and Steelers. Now, this is a game that's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah,
because
Deshaun
Watson still doesn't have a win this year.
To be fair, he's played arguably.
He's played it. He's very Chiefs and who they play this week? Ravens, right? So, I mean, two of the best teams in football playing the Steelers, who have an amazing run in blitz defense. Not the greatest pass defense, but very competent.
They haven't looked good though.
Yeah, I think, but it's also their blitzes are so good that it's kind of covered up how bad their pass.
No, I mean just their team in general because they beat the Giants barely. Then they beat the Broncos where Drew Lock goes out in the first drive.
That is true.
And
who's their quarterback?
Jeff Driscoll. Jeff Driscoll is driving with a chance to take the lead in the fourth quarter.
Do you think the Texans win? Give it to me, Nithin.
No,
you don't think so?
Just because I've been so down. I love Deshaun, but I've been so down.
Yeah. Also, I think Will Fuller is injured.
Will Fuller's always injured.
Yeah, I feel so bad for that man because he's pretty good, but yeah, I mean that's just the nature of football. Cowboys, Seahawks. Cowboys, obviously, we saw them come back against the Falcons this week. Seahawks put up an amazing game. Russell Wilson looking like he's kind of starting off that MVP conversation.
He's trying to take Mahomes' throne.
I can see it. I mean, I think he is still. I mean, we talk about Russell Wilson in that conversation pretty much every year. Just outside of it, though, I think he's a very underrated player in terms of like the accolades part of it.
What's your top 3 QBs? Because I feel there's a group of 3 guys that you feel are the best.
It's hard because Aaron Rodgers is playing pretty well through the first 2 weeks.
He'd be in my
and for the first time in a while, Patrick Mahomes wasn't dazzling against the Chargers. That pass rush is insane. They have pretty good DB, so I'm not that concerned about it. But I would put Mahomes, Jackson, and then Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson at the same 3AB.
Okay. I still would have Lamar a little lower just because I want to see it in playoffs.
That's fair.
These quarterbacks are so good right now. Lamar has been phenomenal through 2 games. Aaron Rodgers is really giving me nightmares about some later matchups against the Bears.
Happy that we don't have to play him for a few weeks.
And Mahomes is Mahomes and Russell Wilson. I think he has 11 incompletions and 7 touchdowns this year.
Wild. He's so good.
And he's been throwing like the most crazy touchdown passes. I mean, there was the one to was it DK Metcalf and the other one to Moore. I mean, he's just throwing these great balls. And the Chris Carson touchdown, which is the classic floater pass that he always.
He's wild. He's really, really good. Yeah. Last 2 games of the week, Sunday night, you got the Packers and Saints, which Drew Brees hasn't been amazing this year. Obviously, when Michael Thomas is out.
That's very much an understatement. He's been really bad.
He's not. Yeah. I think that we'll see when Michael Thomas comes back. I think he's out for a few weeks. But I think Packers take that game. Unfortunately, I'd love to see them lose, but I don't think they're losing. And then Monday night, the Chiefs and the Ravens. Love these games. What do you think is going to happen Monday night?
You know, I think the Chiefs are the better team, but they're not playing too great.
I think they were kind of just stifled by that Chargers defense. And then they were probably game planning for Tyrod Taylor all week.
But it's Justin Herbert. It's a rookie quarterback.
But he played really, really well.
He had that one throw that was
throws, and he was playing well. I think he'll obviously be able to overtake that starting position, especially now that the news broke that the Chargers team doctor punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung.
Really weird.
I need to know what all that's about in the coming days. Hopefully, Adam Schefter keeps us updated. But I think the Ravens take it.
Yeah, I'm going to
shock it.
Too.
I'm excited to see that. It'll be like the first time I really, really watched Lamar this year. Missed a few of his games, but it'll be interesting. But that is all for us on Illini Drive on this Wednesday afternoon. Have a great rest of your week. This is Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU.